Have you ever sat down to study, opened up your books or your laptop and felt your brain just completely shut off? Like this is the last thing that you want to be doing, but you know that you have to. You feel extremely overwhelmed, mentally exhausted, and you know that you need to push through, but how? I'm going to teach you how to practically do this, but I need to preface by saying that you know your body the best. I fully trust that, and I want you to make a judgment. If you need to prioritize rest and recovery and just have low performance days, that's more than okay. You should absolutely do that, and I encourage you to do it. This is for those individuals that just need a little bit of a push, that realize that in the harsh of the day-to-day realities of a student, because there's a lot that's on your plate. I get it. I've been through it. I want to be helping you manage that so you can still have success on those days as well. My name is Jun Yu. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I just graduated with both my bachelor's and master's in biomedical engineering simultaneously with a neuroengineering concentration with multiple distinctions. I know exactly what it feels like to have an insane course load. I know exactly what it feels like to balance that with a really large business at that time, for me handling it on my own, all my family responsibilities. I feel you, and I had to utilize these techniques that I'm about to share with you to push it that extra mile on the days that I really didn't feel like it, to still have success. So how can you show up when your brain might be feeling a little bit foggy, a little bit underperforming? I'm gonna be here to help you ignite that spark so that you can have success too. If you have any questions at all, leave your comments below, give this video a thumbs up, and of course subscribe. With that being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Number one, take short breaks. I know that this is hard, and you have to trust me on this because I used to be exactly of the mind of go, 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 and especially during exam season, I was the worst. I wanted to just sit down and do 7 hours of work straight because I felt that that was the only way that I was going to relieve all this anxiety. But in reality, it was attributing a lot to the sense of overwhelming emotions that I was going through at that time. That's not what you should be doing. Instead, you should think about it as short, intense bursts, but broken up into breaks, because every time that you take a break, you actually allow your brain to recover. It allows the restoration of your energy level and focus so that you can approach the next subsequent block of studying in a much more effective way. So this may look like a 25-minute session with a 5-minute break, or a 45-minute session with a 10-minute break. However you want to construct it, it's totally entirely up to you, and you should find a segment of time that works well, but you need to be taking these short breaks so you can ensure that you can have successful days of studying without burning out. Number two, active learning. If you are currently mentally tired, the worst thing that you can do is to engage in passive techniques, because there's nothing more boring than that. And I know it feels like you're making progress when you're highlighting with your pretty highlighters and also rereading or rewriting, but you're not. So it's hurting you on two fronts. It's boring, so you are even becoming more tired mentally, and then also you're not making progress with your studying. So instead, if you can engage in active techniques such as the Feynman technique, I think that's one of the best, where it's super engaging, right? Especially if you're doing this with a friend or you are doing it alone. It allows you to kind of break out of the passive studying mode and actually test your recall of the knowledge, because we know that's scientifically much more effective. It's going to help you on both of those fronts. You can do the blurting method, you can create diagrams, you can go ahead and actually take tests and do that in a manner that's much more engaging than it would be to just reread something. I think these are greater ways to actually be engaged and not be even more mentally tired than you already are. Number three, light exercise. Some stretching or just walking is a great way to do this. This actually kind of bleeds into the next one, which is a change of scenery, but you can almost combine the two in reality, because you should absolutely be moving from location to location to break up the monotony of work. So what I like to do is, if I'm working at my desk for my peak productivity window in the morning, but I know that it's going to become a little bit more monotonous throughout the day, then I might have a session in a cafe or a session in my library, or have a session with some friends, and just completely change the scenery of what I'm seeing visually, and that can help me stay a bit more engaged. And what you can do here is actually allocate this in between in different locations and walk there, right? Because that allows you to then break up that and actually have the exercise associated with it. So that's a great way where I've strategically created schedules for myself where I'm in different locations, and in between I'm forcing myself to do some exercise, because I know in the moment you're like, oh no, I don't want to exercise, I don't want to spend another 10 or 15 minutes doing that, when in reality it's going to help you become a lot more productive, and it's going to allow you to have much more utility in your subsequent sessions of studying. So I encourage you to do that, but also stretching is a great alternative too, and also changing your posture is a great idea too. So you might feel that the way that you're posturing now is optimal, but to stand up for a minute and to work that way is a great idea. To actually change up the way that you're sitting and to move around a bit and to stretch in the midst of that is a great idea to, again, stay a little bit more engaged and not necessarily add to the fatigue that you have mentally. And these are just smaller techniques where it might not seem such like a big deal, but in reality, the utility of it compounds across the study session, and that can be extremely effective for you. Before we move into the next tip, I have some exclusive news specifically for our YouTube family here. We just wrapped up our back to school sale, which was one of our biggest and most successful sales to date. However, I received some messages from some of you stating that you weren't aware of the sale, and because of that, you felt like you missed out, which makes total sense because I mainly promoted it on my Instagram and my email list, and for that, I am very, very sorry. But to make up for it, I am offering solely to you guys a code titled StudyTools20, and it is live at the moment of you watching this and will end Monday. With this code at checkout, you will be able to get 20% off on all of the study tools. That includes the Learning System book, the physical version, and the digital version of it, and the Guide to Academic Success. All the different information about what those entail are on the site, which I highly recommend you tap onto, which is in the little banner above me right now and also in the description below. I hope you guys are able to take advantage of it so that you can best prepare for this upcoming school year. Good luck. And with that being said, let's get into the rest of the tips. Number 4, and this might sound counterintuitive, but limit your caffeine intake. I see people all the time just downing caffeine, whether it's coffee or energy drinks. Although it might make you feel good in that moment, you are likely going to have a big crash in the afternoon. And if you are a student that has a lot on their plate, because I know that you are, and I definitely was as a biomed student, you are not going to be successful this way, because you have to be productive and sustain that energy output for as much of the day as possible. You can't just maximize a few hours, because you might have classes all throughout sporadically, and then you have to integrate your study sessions in between. I know what that feels like. The worst thing that you can do is just drink a whole ton of caffeine in the morning and then feel horrible when it comes into your mid-afternoon, and then you can't be productive. At that point, then you feel guilty the next day, and then you have even more mental fatigue. That's not what we want to do. And drinking caffeine with coffee is not a bad idea by any means. Just limit that and look at some alternatives, right? Try just drinking water like that. That's sometimes all I need, where I feel really, really tired, but in reality, I'm just really dehydrated. And if I drink water, it just allows me to feel a bit more alert in that moment, or perhaps replacing it with some herbal tea, something to potentially allow you to have that energy and focus without necessarily drinking a ton of caffeine. Or if you're going to drink caffeine, to spread it out a bit while limiting each of the intakes is a better idea, so that you can have much more steady energy output throughout the day and have success that way versus burning out and crashing out mid-afternoon. Number 5, listen to music, but the right music. I highly encourage you not to listen to music with lyrics inside of them. I know that it's fun too, and you can for a little bit less intense work, but especially when you have to sit down and study really, really hard, it tends to be more of a distraction than you probably think that it is subconsciously. So if you can elect a better alternative like white noise or instrumental music, I know some people have their favorite movies and will just listen to the soundtracks of those movies and their instrumentals, and that can be just a great way to have a fun experience with it. Or perhaps lo-fi music. I think these are great ways to still make it a bit more fun, a bit more engaging, allow you to curate this environment where you know you have to remain locked in. Auditory is a great input to be able to help curate that environment, but just be careful with the right type of music that you're listening to. And this is just one way that you can make this a little bit better of an experience for you. Number 6, ensure that you're prioritizing sleep. And I probably should have put this number 1 because of how important it is. And we all should know by now, if you've watched my channel for at least a brief period of time, you'll know that I say a lot that neuroplasticity is a 2-step process where it is absolutely deep focus, like you need to care about your current study session that you have on hand. It also requires deep rest for you to actually have the rewiring of your neurons. So to have that occur, that sleep needs to be of the utmost focus, especially the night of your studying. And I think it's really, really important that we make this a huge priority, especially as students. I get it, like we're really, really busy, but when you can curate those healthy boundaries, it allows you to have more productive days on a consistent basis while also retaining the information, because obviously that's really, really important when you're studying. And moreover, it allows you to actually have the necessary energy to have success in the following days of studying as well, right? Because if you're just feeling groggy every single day and then you're not sleeping on top of it, you're just making your situations worse and worse and worse. And you might be able to utilize these techniques to have some sort of help that's temporary. But if we're trying to address the root cause, sleep is probably that thing that you need to prioritize first. Number 7, chunking. And this is a habit that I got into in my university that I didn't necessarily realize that I was doing it. But when I was helping other students, it just dawned on me that other people weren't doing it. I think it's such a helpful technique. Whenever you have all this information to learn and to study upon, it can be very overwhelming. So even the thought of you studying that information is like, oh my goodness, I don't want to be doing this. And it just adds to that mental fatigue. That's not a good thing, right? What I tend to do immediately, and this is not even in school only, like I do this for my business as well. I see what we have to learn. I see the task at hand, and I immediately break it into much more manageable chunks. So it makes the whole situation a lot less daunting, right? But what happens too is when you can build a foundational knowledge with the first chunk of material, a lot of times knowledge tends to build upon itself, right? So there's more relevancy created, which makes the next subsequent chunks of knowledge that you have to learn a lot easier to do and a lot more engaging. And of course, you're gonna have the sense of motivation and momentum that's being accumulated as each subsequent chunk becomes a bit easier to learn, right? That's just like a natural human phenomenon. When you go throughout, let's say, any task, like the beginning is the hardest part, but we know that as you're doing it, the task itself becomes a bit easier to do, right? So I think chunking your material is a really great idea, especially when you're feeling mentally fatigued. Just taking 10 minutes to say, all right, I know that this is the information that I actually have to study throughout the next 7 days, but how can I break this up into manageable chunks and then spread that out throughout the 7 days so it's not the worst experience for me forever? And that also makes it a lot easier for you to initiate those study sessions, right? Because you know it's gonna be manageable during the period of time that you have. With that being said, that wraps up the 7 techniques that I use to show up even on the days that I didn't feel like it. I really hope that it can help you too. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments below or let me know your thoughts. Give this video a thumbs up and of course subscribe. I'll see you in the next one and I'll see you all at the top.